So the opening match of the Rugby Championship is just around the corner. The Springboks, they are going to be taking on the Wallabies in South Africa. What promises to be a very exciting fixture. In this video, we will be doing a short preview, looking through at the two sides, few of the head-to-heads, and our prediction for who we think will be taking out the victory. But with me for this preview, it is going to be Rugby Itch. We have done the lineup prediction on the channel already. First of all, mate, we were not very close with the Springbok starting lineup. We should have trusted the leaks because they were pretty much correct.
Exactly. We were pretty terrible on that front, in all honesty. I saw a lot of comments kind of just telling us, like, yeah, you guys just had no clue what was happening. Again, you have to remember, it was pretty hard, obviously, to guess because there is kind of technically two sides we're kind of going to guess from because, obviously, a few players, obviously, are already in New Zealand. But, yeah, look, it was pretty tough. And
Dwayne Vermeulen as well. Neither of us had the skipper in our starting lineups or reserves. We thought that they'd be saving them for the Kiwi game. We did get that wrong. But I like the fact that you were saying, we didn't seem to have an idea about what was going to be happening. And now we're trying to guess who's going to win this game.
Exactly.
So we're either going to be very wrong or somehow, I guess, get our momentum back in the prediction game and start going on the right track. But looking through at these two sides, there are some sensational players that are going to be going head-to-head. I think the big battle that sticks out for me is Pieter-Steph du Toit versus Michael Hooper. Those two, in the breakdown, they're just going to be, I want to use the word feral, going at each other, Both are just going to be trying to get that little bit of oxygen over the ball to be able to rip it away from the opposition. And that physicality is definitely going to be prominent. The battle of Mani Lebok, his first start for the Springboks, is going to be going head-to-head with a very experienced Quade Cooper. I believe both of them will have the kicking tees for today. Who do you think will get themselves the better of that battle?
It's tough because, the last time I saw Quade play was actually against the Boks. Funny enough, that was actually the last time I saw him play, and obviously he did kick that winning penalty. I think. Well, yeah, I think it was a penalty. Yeah, he kicked. So look, if Quade, that's the thing. If he's in form, he can definitely beat, I guess, Lebok in terms of the penalty kicks as well as the conversions. But I think if you're going to go with like what you would expect, I'd say Lebok should be the one to get more, I guess, kicks in his game as well as because that's how the Boks generally play, really. So I think it's kind of what I expect in that front. So I'd say Lebok maybe will win the kicking duel, you could say, throughout the game.
He has had a little bit more game time recently as well.
Yeah, exactly.
For the Stormers, whereas Quade Cooper, I think the last time we saw him in action was actually that Barbarians versus World XV game. And to his credit, didn't look too bad in that game.
No,
Another man that we saw in that game as well was Samu Karevi. He did go off the field relatively early, though. I believe there was some sort of injury there. He will be coming off the bench at number 22 in this contest. It's going to be exciting to see what he can do because in the short amount of time that we saw him, that crash ball seemed to be prominent when he was playing in that World 15 versus Barbarians game. Someone else who knows a thing or two about crash ball, which I feel some South Africans are still not yet on the support train for, and that is Andre Esterhuizen. He seems to split opinions whether or not he's a good 12 option. They more than likely will go with Damien Dialende next week. And maybe even they look at Jesse Creel on the outside if they do decide to rest Lukhanyo, seeing as he is playing in this game. That is one thing that the Springboks have said very clearly is they are splitting their two sides pretty much completely down the middle. Although one player who was going to be going maybe to New Zealand to play now sticking around due to that injury of Oxnard, and that is Stephen Kitsoff. Quite a few Stormers actually making their way into the Springbok side this year, which is understandable, seeing as they had a very good URC season. But of this backline, who do you think's the player that you're looking forward to the most, not just for the Springboks, but also for the Wallabies for this opening game?
Maybe it's an obvious, but I'm just excited to see him once more play, and it's Lukhanyo because we never got to see him obviously play within the Autumn Nations because unfortunately he did injure himself before that happened, I believe, in the Rugby Championship. So, yeah, he's probably the one I'm most excited to see play because, he's one of the world's best players. When he's at his best, there's no one in the world who can beat him in terms of what he does. He has a unique skill in terms of getting by players, just finding the right play in every situation. So, yeah, Lukhanyo is definitely the one key player I'm looking out for in terms of the Bok perspective. But in terms of the Wallabies, generally I would say Hooper is probably one person I would look into just because he's been someone out of form recently within the Waratahs and could maybe improve on that in terms of the Wallaby setup. But But in all honesty, I'm actually really interested to see how Will Skelton does in terms of the Wallabies setup because, again, like I said, he's just someone who hasn't been in there for a long time. And now with Eddie Jones as the coach, maybe it's kind of kind of regenerated him, to say the least, in terms of what he may do in terms of this. But Nick Frost is another one I'd like to see how well he does because he's also really caught my eye with in Super Rugby. Yeah, he is really the only young lock they've actually gone with in this whole Wallaby setup. So it's good to see that how his progression will be throughout this competition going into the World Cup. So yeah, I'd say if there's one player most interested, it is Will Skelton, but one to keep an eye out for, I'd probably say is Nick Frost.
I find Will Skelton a little bit similar to that French number 5 from the Under-20s World Cup. They're actually a relatively similar build,
Exactly,
to Alangi, and they're just freight trains. Like, they'll just keep on running. It's very hard to stop them from making meters. I liked your pick of Lukhanyo though. And just backtracking for a second, do you feel that Andre Esterhuizen and Lukhanyo at some stage in the future is a viable option for the Boks? Do you think that combination could work, or are you sold on, well, I mean, everyone's sold on the Dialende Lukhanyo combo, aren't they? But if that was to be broken at some point, do you see Esterhuizen as that option, or would you go instead? I know that someone that people have been mentioning is Damien Valimza. Is he at some stage going to be a 12 option, seeing as he did do it a little bit for the Storms?
I'll be completely honest. I wouldn't have Williams at 12. Let's just start off with that. I would never really have Williams at 12 because I only consider him as a 10 or 15. That's the way I always see Williams. But in terms of Andre Esterhuizen, I mean, he has improved actually throughout the last few years. It was one of those where, he was getting slated a lot in terms of, I guess, like from a Boks supporter standpoint. But I think you have to give him his opportunity in this game because I think the combination of him and Lukhanyo could work actually in their favor in this aspect because you have to remember that they're not going with someone like Karevi in this game. They're actually going with, they're going against the likes of Reece Hodge and as well as Len Ikatal. And I think in terms of the center pairings, I think, one is, Esterhuizen and Lukhanyo versus, I think it's a pretty, I'm not going to say it's an easy battle, but I think they definitely have the edge over them in that perspective. But no, I'm actually very fascinated to see what Esterhuizen can do because, like you said, he is more of a battering ram in terms of what he can do and kind of gain a few meters for the Boks as they kind of push forward. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in the future if they actually go with like someone like Andre Pollard actually at 12 because he's someone who has the build actually as more of a 12 to me. And you have to remember that Damien Dialende, do you think this will be his last World Cup? Because I think it is going to probably be his last World Cup, I'd say, overall, because he's probably going to be too old to play in the next one.
There's some pretty old veterans around the old rugby world. Unfortunately, Alan Wynne-Jones not going to be taking part in this World Cup. I think that's one player that a lot of people were like, surely he sticks around just for one more.
That's true. But he's
Mornay Stain, where's he at? Surely he's coming back, at least for the British and Irish Lions tour in like 2030 something, isn't he?
Yeah, we just don't know on that front. But I just saw here that Damien Dialende is actually 31, so I mean,
so he might still be all right.
Yeah, I mean, what is Lukhanyo? Like, how old is he?
He's like 28 or 29.
That's the thing. I always knew Lukhanyo was younger, so I think he's the one. Yeah, he's 29, so he's turning 30 essentially in November. So he'll be 30 by this year. But he can still play for the Boks, say, in the next World Cup. So you never know. Maybe Andre Esterhuizen and him maybe play in the next World Cup. But I would personally like to see Pollard and Lukhanyo as maybe the center combination. Then you put like someone like Libok on number 10, and then you go with like Williamson number 15 as like the future, because that could be like a good combination. But overall, I'll be excited to see what Esterhuizen can do.
And speaking of age, a couple very young players out on each wing. You've got Canon Moody on one side, you've got Kurt Leorinso on the other. So that youthful attitude of just going out there, playing your heart out, and going up against a couple Wallabies players, and Marika Korombedi is certainly not going to be an easy man to get around.
No,
also, in that battle, you have got Suliasi Vunivalu, another fella with a little bit of height. I think Canon Moody's just that little bit shorter, but if those two go up for the high ball, it should be a very intriguing battle. And yeah, Kurt Leorinso with the pace, if he gets any sort of space on the outside, can be extremely dangerous. But also one more player to mention, I think, for the Springboks is Kobus Reinach. Because, of course, we forgot to put him in for our predictions. Unfortunately, we listed 4 Springbok halfbacks. And then in the prediction video, I actually added a picture of Cobus Reinhardt, because I felt bad that we had completely left him out. And the worst thing is, last year, I kept on trying to get that man in my starting side for my predictions. And they wouldn't do it. But this year, they actually have. And I feel like that is going to be a dangerous option for the Springboks moving forward, because he's willing to back himself to go around the side of a breakdown. And when he does find open space, you know, he's able to create opportunities.
Exactly.
Nick White, not a very popular man when it comes to the South Africans. A lot of people still remember what happened the last time, one of the last times that those two sides played. But it is hard to deny his skill. You know, he's had a decent season for the Brumbies. He can get on a lot of people's nerves. I think it's the mustache, but
it probably is.
You know, he's still got the potential of opening up this Australian backline and helping them towards some points on the board. But now, Tim, we are at the stage of a prediction. I am going to be very generous and let you go first for who you think is going to be winning this contest, and also the exact score you think it's going to be.
Yeah, so I'll keep it simple here, guys. I think the Boks will win. I'm not going to go into like a whole spill in terms of what I think the Wallabies can do in this, because you have to remember that this is going to be the Wallabies' first time under Eddie Jones. And again, you could say like, oh, this could mean that we have a different team in terms of the Wallabies. But I just think the Boks, experience alone in terms of how, they've never lost a game against the Wallabies in Pretoria, guys. So I just can't see it like changing. So I'm gonna go with the Boks win. I do think it'll be close, but I don't think it'll be like a 2 or 3 point difference. I think it'll be like separated by like a try. So I'm gonna say like around like a 7 point difference. I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be
arguing with yourself, aren't you?
I don't think it'll be a high score line, but I think it'll be like 20 points to 13. I'm going to say 20 points to 13. I think that's what my prediction is.
Okay, so 7 point win for the Springboks.
Yeah.
And I would assume without that bonus point, of course, with the Rugby Championship, every point could be crucial.
And that's kind of what
giving them just the 4.
Yeah. Oh, it could be actually.
The Wallabies get the bonus point in that case, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? No, I don't like that. I don't like that. I will go a bit further. I'll go because it'll be like what? If you have 5, I'll go like 26 to 13, and then we'll go like a bonus point in that. We'll score like what? 4 tries.
Okay.
Somehow, or 20. Actually, no, 27 to make it a bit more suitable. 27-13. Okay. Final prediction. There you
go. Final prediction. You sure?
I've just put it up even higher and higher.
I wasn't trying to convince you that the Boks needed to win by more, but every time I said something, it was just more points for the Boks, more for the Boks, less for the Wallabies.
That's it. 27-13. Okay. That's it.
27-13 locked in?
Locked in.
Okay, funny enough, my prediction involved the Springboks scoring 27 points. So the more you went up, the more I was like, that's getting a bit close to 1.
No, I don't accept this. You're somehow copying me.
But I have got the Wallabies scoring 18 points. What's that face?
What? You think they'll score 18 points?
27-18. Couple penalties in there. 2 try score for the Wallabies. Going to be a tough game. I think they're going to get off to a better start than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. But later on in the game, when their altitude starts to kick in a little bit more to the lungs, I think that the Springboks will score themselves 1 or 2 late tries. There we go. Okay. That's the full match. Now we don't have to watch it. We know what's going to happen. And it's that. But nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning into this preview. If you do enjoy these videos of myself and Rugby Itch, we have recently started a new channel. It's called the Rugby Recap, where we pretty much look through all of the rugby action that has taken place each and every week, rugby news along the way as well, and also with a pre-recorded and live version of that podcast over on the Rugby Recap. But thank you very much for coming on the channel, Rugby Itch. Hugely appreciate it. See who is closer. In the prediction, if the Wallabies win, we're both going to look like idiots again. But we're used to it by now, aren't we? Not going to happen? Famous last words. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and we'll see you all for the next one.